So let's go ahead and actually take our work and create three-dimensional objects out of it. I'm going to open the layer manager. I'm going to create a new layer and, for example, call this 3D model. Okay. And I'm going to activate it as well because I want to work on that model. Inside here, for example, I'm going to turn off, for example, those elements. And here right now I notice actually this stuff maybe should be moved to a different layer for better clarification. So, and then let's go to property, say all you go to and doors. Okay, great. Okay. Back to 3D model. Oh, by accident I moved that things. Going to select them again. There and there. There, go to there. See, this actually everything as well. Escape. Okay, close it. Perfect. Okay. Now, those two objects, my interior wall and my outside wall, I'm going to copy. So, for example, I click copy and then ask me about a reference point, which means, for example, from this point, make a copy to there, 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 there. See, wherever I click after the first time, it creates a new copy. But what I simply want is make a copy and leave it where it is. So I click copy and I simply could enter 0, tap 0 for the scene center. You see where the yellow line comes from, and then type 0, tap 0 to simply place it where it is and press escape. Now you don't really see anything here right now, and that's simply because the 3D model is a little bit, those lines overlay with the other lines. So I can click those and then to model here. Okay, great. Now this one we can all turn off. And before we now create any geometry, we have to do two things. We have to, or we should maybe go to 3D modeling because that's our new environment. And then we want to turn on this solid history. So to do this, we can simply type solid his and then AutoCAD completes it. Press enter. 0 means it's off, 1 means it's on. Okay. And the next step is show history. Default is 1, type 2. So what does the solid history do? We're going to create volumes out of all walls and the windows, and then we cut them against each other. And AutoCAD simply memorizes what object is being calculated with what other object. So when we move the main objects, for example, I move what defines a window, then AutoCAD moves the geometry and cuts out the space again. Sounds a little bit abstract, so let me give you a demonstration. So I click on extrude, click on this line, press enter, and for example I can type in 8 feet, kind of like for a default height. Now you see the solid extrude actually provided or created nice empty surfaces. As you see, you only see the edges. If by any chance you see a lot of lines on those faces, then it means you created shells, but not a solid. The indicator for that could be your floor plan is actually not joined, so there are gaps. So I really have to make sure that that's good geometry. You can do the whole extrusion one more time. Click on this object, spacebar, and then maybe snap here to this height point. Let's switch to shaded and take a look at what we have. So That's, for example, now our object. So you see a solid wall where we later cut a door into, and there's a door where everything is open. Okay, now let's take a look at actually, for example, the windows, how we create those. Let's go back to wireframe mode, which should be your preferred mode. Actually, selecting objects in wireframe mode is the easiest one for AutoCAD. And let's go to home, and here I would like to show my floor plan. So you see actually, and Windows there. The reason why, for example, I made a copy of the floor plan and then moved it to 3D model is simply when I extrude the geometry out, those floor plan lines are gone. That's the reason why I want to make a copy. And oh yeah, we can also see where nicely our windows and where the doors, for example, put. So to create, for example, a window, it's very easy. We can create a rectangle. And you see when you move your rectangle onto a face, I don't click, I just move my mouse. You see that face is highlighted. So if I would click now to draw, AutoCAD would on this plane, on this face or wall, would create the rectangle. I'm just going to make sure I only have endpoint turned on. So I go to here, get close to this endpoint, and I still make sure that face is still selected, and then I click. And maybe snap to there and go up. So this window is of course 62 wide, but it is 59 inches tall. Enter. So now I have to move this object actually up. So I can go to move this object, tab. Actually, I'm turning this. Click. Then I turn the snap off. And the height is actually 2 feet. So no, I don't know if it did it correctly. So let's measure. So distance, this point to there, doing something. So yeah, something went wrong. So let's undo it. Let's do it again. This object, spacebar, and maybe simply click. Would like to have this one turned on, so I straight up only 2 feet. Enter. There it is. Sometimes the snapping can really be annoying, so if the drawing results are not the way how they should be, simply turn them off. And then when you need them, turn them back on. Let's make another window. So for example, here I make, oh, see, this is now drawn on the floor. That's not what I need. Drawing on this window to the snap. This one, and then for example, yeah, I draw something like this. This might be a nice exercise because you see now this object is way too small, but I actually can use those grips to snap everything into place. So I can click, go to this corner point on the wall and move up, and there you see it snaps to the correct height. I could click and hold, memorize this height, and you see in this case, for example, it doesn't really work. So let's see if there's maybe a different thing we could do. Straight up to there. Yeah, so in this case, for example, it doesn't work. So what are, for example, alternatives? We could make sure our stuff is good. So we can draw helper lines. So this is 2 feet. So I could, for example, select the whole object, go to move, and say, maybe with this one turned off, straight up 2 feet. That's good. But now the top part is too long. So let's see what we can do. I can, for example, draw a line, and maybe from this corner straight up with nearest. Okay. Measure distance, for example, this point to this point. So you see it's 1 foot and 1 inch. So here, for example, now select this rectangle, click and drag, push it down, and make myself from this point simply a line that is 1 foot and 1 inch tall. Escape, and then I select, for example, the move command, U. So select this object, spacebar, this point, move straight up till you intersect with this line. There. So now you see we put this 1 foot 1 inch space here onto the top edge, and now I can simply click, move this one up, try to snap on this one. Because it's on this face, you see now I can snap height-wise to it. Escape, select this line, delete, and it's gone. Perfect. Now it's about time to actually cut our windows out. And to do this, because we have solid walls, we also need solid volumes that define those windows. So we go to solid, extrude, maybe select this one, spacebar. The wall is 6 inches, so we can go with 7 inches. Enter, spacebar, click, spacebar, 7 inches, enter. And for example, let's go to shaded. So there, for example, you see those windows sticking out. So now we can go to subtract and say the volume A of this wall, spacebar, minus all the volumes that define B, spacebar, and it's cut out. Great. So you see those wire lines here. They are actually representing the original geometry for the window cubes, and that is actually what you show with the show his or your height, for example. And the whole idea about the solid history is that, for example, here this window is not really nicely centered, kind of like to the left. So I would like to have this window to be positioned there. So for example, in this case, then let's see, I'm going to create myself a new line. So I'm going to home lines of from there to there, enter. And the main reason for that was I have, for example, here this midline. So I can, for example, go to this face, and I need the midline. Where is it? There. Okay. And for example, make a straight line up. And this line I can delete. So this line I created is simply a helper for me. So how do I actually move now this whole object to the right? So if I click everything, you see I select all my walls. But if I hold Control and move my mouse over this object, you see actually that if I then left mouse button click, I selected not the correct object. There. I selected the original rectangle that created actually the whole, the profile for the extrusion. So if, for example, just to show you, change this one, you see I'm changing the extrusion, and the extrusion we're going to use to cut the space out. So also the cutout is adjusted. A little bit interactive, so that's quite nice. So let's go to move and then say this midpoint. Let's see if maybe if we can do it from this view. Maybe it gets close to here. Click. So this, for example, now didn't work. I moved the whole object. And let me show you how this looks shaded. You see my cube got moved out. It doesn't really work. So this helper line I created, I actually need on the front face, because the rectangle I drew for the window is on the outside face. It's not really a problem. I just have to draw a little bit more. So I go to, oh, that's a crazy angle. Zoom in a little bit and say here from this point straight over. I want to turn on perpendicular actually in this case. Perpendicular. Escape. And then, for example, align this point straight up. Escape. You know, this line I can delete. This line I can delete, because here now I can click on move. Say where's my midpoint and where does it intersect. So this midpoint, click to where those two should actually intersect. Let's see, didn't I? Parent intersection. Oh, it doesn't. Okay, then maybe in this case let's select nearest. And click. And let's take a look. Shade it. Ah, shoot. That's not really very good. So my suspicion is actually that this line is not really on the face. So that's the reason why this stuff currently doesn't work. Okay. Different attempt. So with the whole 3D stuff, drawing on it, that didn't really work well. So what I'm going to do in this case, actually glad this didn't work out, so I can show you some workarounds. So from here, perpendicular to that edge, perfect. Then let's say from here to here is a line. Okay, good. And then midpoint. Good. Where's the midpoint? Is this the midpoint? Yeah. And perpendicular there. Okay, good. This one I can delete. This one I can delete. Okay. Then let's go back to our wall model. And control click. No. This actually also has to go a little bit inside. So we have to see it sits outside. So I have to click and say, you please go back to inside the wall. And then maybe in this case, actually, I simply say this object, spacebar, this midpoint to maybe this point. Let's call your shader. You see, actually moved it onto the ground because all I wanted to do is now actually I simply click this one and then say spacebar. Maybe from here, trade up 2 feet, enter, shade it. Yeah, there it is. Great. So you see when you move those rectangles out of the wall, actually, well, obviously the wall then is closed again, but you will still see those rectangles. Sorry, I meant cubes. And then you just simply align them back, move them back into the wall, reposition them, and then it all falls into place. So this was actually not too bad. Some failures, but that was pretty good practice. So if, for example, I would like to create something here, I mean my door is actually open and I would like something else to be there. I could actually create a rectangle and from there, for example, to here. See, I snap to the top face. The main reason is now I can select this part, spacebar, and simply drag it down. So if I control click onto this rectangle, oh there. I didn't even need to, I just needed to click on it. And then I can adjust, for example, the extrusion height. By clicking on the triangle that's on top face. Okay, so let's go to shade it. There you see how it looks. And I could, for example, either keep this separate or I could say A, spacebar, plus B. Join them together. But actually they should have been joined. Why didn't they? U, spacebar. Oh. I simply select them all together. That was my flaw. So with here you select A spacebar, select B spacebar. Here you just click them all together. So even here you see when I click Control, I can still find the different geometry types that define all my walls or those windows parts. Now the nice thing about the solid history is, besides being able to adjust the position and the size of the windows, I can also select one, press delete, and it's gone. And the wall is back. Control Z and it's back. So it's very interactive. That's a nice aspect of it. Here I would like to cut in a door. So here I have my floor plan, for example, for my door position. So on this window, add this edge point. There I snapped point. Of course, oh that's awesome. When you zoom in and out, then it loses that snap target there. And then I can go extrude, say U, spacebar, 6 inches this time. And then let's go to abstract, A spacebar, B spacebar. And let's take a look. There, it's cut out. Great. So that's pretty much, I think, most that is good to know. I want to start with AutoCAD and solids. Now, as like an addition, I would like to show you maybe how we could create a window that actually goes around a corner. It sounds complicated, but to be honest, it's actually not really. Think about what do we have to do? Well, on our floor plan, we have to create the design for a window. So let's go to here. So for example, let's say, where am I? I'm going to show my table. Let's say along my table, I would like to have that window. So this area to there, I would like to have a window. So I can maybe, for example, with a poly tool, start from there to there to there, 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 and there. Right. For example, this line. Now maybe let's put in a midline so we can easily understand what I'm talking about here. There. And then those two objects, for example, I join. Okay, so that, for example, should demonstrate my window. Now I can select this one and say, for example, copy 0 space tab 0, and then say 0 tab 0, enter, and then this object I'm going to move to my 3D model. Yeah, that's good. Okay, actually I didn't really make a copy. So let's turn this one on. Let's go to wireframe mode. There. And let's rotate the view a little bit. Let's click this one and copy and paste. Oh, somewhere else there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the move tool, spacebar, and I would like to only have endpoint turned on. So this endpoint snap. Interesting. Try this again. View, spacebar, this point to, oh yeah, I have to turn this one off to there. Okay, and then one of those. And I'm going to move back to the window area and no, turn off because I want to go to this one as the main layer of off. Okay, so now there you see actually this base. And that object, for example, I can simply move up. For example, here. And then say 2 feet, the move tool. Then I can extrude it. Spacebar, snap to this upper edge point, click. And then the same solid subtract A spacebar minus B spacebar. And let's go to shade it. And there it is. So that was actually everything you needed to do to create, for example, a window that actually goes around the corner. And thankfully to the design history, we can freely move elements around. For example, could maybe think this one, another look if maybe this is a little bit wider. Escape. So this is, for example, now where the fun part starts. So I'm going to freely explore three-dimensionally how, for example, a space looks like. Well, maybe the space here. Nope. Okay. Now we have to go back to the wireframe mode again. That's sometimes easier. for the software. So here's my handle. I can click, drag it. I should be able to drag this one. Oh, there. So again. Oh, this is actually interesting. Why am I not able? Okay, here I can drag it. Here I cannot drag it. It doesn't make literally any sense. However, actually, there's something else I could show. Can also move those parts actually, see, slightly at an angle. Go back to shaded, see? Make those cutouts at an angle. And Control can also this one over. Snap. There. So we move like corner and corner if we can't move the base at the same time. And we can also even here change the height. So maybe I just have a small window opening only. So that's actually, I think, the beauty of CAD. It's a lot of labor work at the beginning, but then at the later stage, then you're really very free and exploring rapidly maybe the look and feel of different variations. And of course, this space would look much more interesting when, besides two-dimensional outlines, for example, for our furniture, we also would have the actual furniture models or basic representations of those inside there. Okay, that's basically everything for right now.